I want them to grow up knowing if I want to be a person of integrity, I'm not right all the time. And it's okay to say, I missed the mark. Will you forgive me? Like, that is true integrity.
Welcome to Better Together with Costi Epifantiv, a podcast on parenting, business, and living life intentionally. We're here every week to bring you thoughtful conversation on making your own path to success, challenging the status quo, and finding all the ways we're better together. Here's your host, Costi Epifantiv.
Hey y'all, this is Costa, and today I'm here with my guest, Alex Lisic, executive pastor at Christ Point Church and creative director at Fulfilled. We're going to talk about a lot of different things in this episode, but I want to start with your family. For those who don't know, you're the husband of our friend and former guest, Mrs. Elizabeth Lisic. You're the father of two talented kids, both actors, Evan and Elle Lisic, and you said something in the pre-interview that stuck with me. You have a family motto or mission, whichever you want to call it. Will you tell us what it is and how it shapes your family and life?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And our family is everything. Something that Elizabeth and I said, we've been married for over 20 years now. And when we were newly married, we sort of developed this little family motto that we had between the two of us. And as we added children, this became sort of something that we said every day to each other. And it's simply love first. And so that may look like, when we're saying bye before school, we'll say, all right, Lisic kids. And then they'll say love first and they get out of the car.
Nice.
But this is who we are. We believe that no matter how you approach your day or whatever people you may come across in your day or circumstances, disappointments, high moments, whatever it is, if you approach it with love before you do anything else, you will always come out feeling hopeful. You'll have gratitude. And you will be on an upward trajectory with your day and a much better person through it. So love first is truly the lens that we try to focus and see the world through.
Yeah. And so did you guys focus group this, or how did you guys come up with something like that?
No, we didn't. It was quite literally just something my wife and I spend time together at the beginning of every year where we talk through goals and
that's great.
What do we want to see happen. Our anniversary is on January 1st. So we literally start a new year of marriage and a new year together, and we talk through goals. And this is one of the things we talked about. What kind of family are we going to be? What kind of couple are we going to be? And love first was that was our personal mission and objective. And as we've had kids, we've made that our families as well.
Yeah, man. Living through intentionality.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's one of the greatest tools to success is if you wake up every single day and you're intentional about your day. And then if you look at it on a macro scale, if you're going to spend 20 plus the rest of your life with somebody, why not be intentional about it, right?
Absolutely.
Building a family, be intentional about it.
Absolutely. Parenting, being a good spouse, it's all about intentionality, right? The issues that we see in relationships and couples and parenting, it usually comes because somebody somewhere decided that they are more important than everybody else, right? And you've stopped being intentional. Parenting's a 24/7 job.
It is.
If we want to have good relationships inside of our family, with our friends, and it takes intentionality.
Yeah. We asked this on Elizabeth's episode, so I hope it isn't too redundant to say, but we all want our kids to live up to their full potential. Obviously, your kids are outstanding. They're actors, as we said earlier, but not just actors. They're in Netflix shows. They're in big name movies. They're leading in large productions. But not only that, they're people of integrity. For any parent listening and thinking, what do I need to do? Just sign me up. What's your advice?
First of all, I love talking about integrity. I think if there's any attribute that one person could want to ascribe to, it's integrity over all things, right? I'll take integrity before talent. And if you want to develop integrity, it comes again with intentionality. But I think there's kind of three things I always look at. And the first is that we have to model it ourselves. Kids are so smart. We don't give them enough credit sometimes, but they see everything, they hear everything. They're so perceptive, especially my children. So they don't just listen to what you say, they watch how you live. And so if I want them to be people, young men and women of integrity, then I have to show them what that looks like from a parenting perspective, from how I treat my wife, how I treat Elizabeth, to how I treat them. And that means, yes, sometimes I have to say, hey, I missed the mark today, right? So if I had a tough day at work and I come home and I'm short with everybody, and this has happened plenty, right? I have to self-reflect and say, man, this is not everybody else. This is me. And then I quite literally will address the room and say, guys, I've had a hard day today. and I've been really short. I'm so sorry. I need some grace. And will you forgive me? Will you accept my apology? And literally, my kids tell me, yes, Dad, we forgive you. And that's so powerful to me because number one, I want that. But number two, I want them to grow up knowing if I want to be a person of integrity, I'm not right all the time. And it's okay to say, I missed the mark. Will you forgive me?
Sure.
Like that is true integrity. So I think that's a lot of it. They need to see it. And you mentioned a lot of the stuff that they do. I love what my kids are involved in, but I'll tell you what, if they were involved in completely different things, I would love those things too. I don't really watch soccer, but if they decided that they were going to play soccer tomorrow, I am the number one soccer fan.
There you go.
I'm gonna learn everything about it. We're going to go watch matches together. We'll watch it on TV. I am going to have all the team regalia, whatever it is. And so I think showing up for your kids and supporting the things that they're passionate about and pushing them forward into their interests is always really important. Even this year, our kids were in a show at Cumberland County Playhouse. They were in The Wizard of Oz. Super fun. What a great show. But they had this thing where they allowed adults to audition for the first time in like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Evan came to me and said, Dad, would you please do it? This may be the only time we'll ever get to do it. And I wasn't going to do it. On paper, it made no sense.
Are you an actor?
I am not an actor, but I auditioned for this thing because they asked me to, and I did it. And I did it. And
Did you get the part?
Yeah, I was
Good.
the Wizard of Oz, guys.
What? Bro.
I was the Wizard of Oz.
You were Jeff Goldblum.
That's exactly right. But here's the thing. For 3 months, I worked on this with them, and I got to drive them to their practices and then walk in the room with them and witness my kids with all their peers and high five them and tell them all how talented they were. And I will never forget, and I'll never regret those moments. So I think it's 24/7, getting passionate about what they're passionate about and being in there with them. But then that leads me to the last part, the third thing, which is as much as we want to recognize and encourage their interests and their gifts, I think it is probably equally or even more important to remind them that their value doesn't come from what they do.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from who they are.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about that already, but the value in them as people is not in what they produce, but it's in who they are. It's in their character, right? And so when they audition, when they get a big part, that Netflix movie, that came on the back of 100+ auditions that no one will ever see that they didn't get callbacks for.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were waiting to find value and validation in that one acceptance, you're waiting most of your time.
Absolutely.
And you're always chasing somebody else's picture and validation of you. But when we say you are talented and your value is in who you are and your preparation and what you bring to the table, you can find wins anywhere. They celebrate a great audition that no one will ever see again. We celebrated at the house. So I think those three things, especially when we're talking about integrity, those are things that we always try to do intentionally in our family.
So here's my question. I'm very curious. So were your parents, did they have all the same type of outlooks on life, kind of like you do? Did they teach you all this stuff? Did you have a similar upbringing where they were just go forth and prosper and we'll back you 100%? What was your childhood like?
So I have a twin brother and a younger brother, and we were all interested in different things. And so I think my parents survived our teenage years, 3 kids doing different things in different places all at the same time.
Yeah.
They did the best they could. And then my wife had incredibly supportive family as well. I think at some point, though, when you decide to get married, the real discussion is, okay, so what are we going to do? What kind of parents do we want to be? And certainly there are things that my parents did and her parents did on both sides of the spectrum, good and bad, that you're like, I definitely want to do this. I definitely don't want to do that. But at some point you go, none of what happened with me or to me matters for my children. It's what I bring to the table now.
Right.
Right. But I'll say this, Elizabeth certainly is probably one of the most emotionally aware people that I know. So she's always pushed me in this area.
I mean, listen, so we're doing the pre-interview and we're chatting, right? And so I bring up that Fortnite story about I walk upstairs on a Saturday and there's this girl playing with Julian, and she doesn't sound like she's a 9-year-old girl. She sounds like she's 18, and she may have not be a girl at all, right? And so just for the listeners, so I walk upstairs, I get on Fortnite, we're starting to play Battle Royale, and this girl's in our party. We don't know who she is. I thought it was maybe his cousin or maybe like a next door neighbor, something like that. Anyway, so she hops off and leaves our party. I walk up there a few hours later, and she's back in his party, and I hear her say to Julian, like, hey, is that your dad? Or I don't want to play with your dad, something along those lines. And this is coming off the heels of that episode that we had about child sex trafficking and Cookeville Police Department and just all this craziness. And what did you ask me?
I asked you, how did you talk to your son about it?
And I said, I didn't. And so, because like being emotionally aware is something that my dad, he just never gave that. I think one time he told me when I was sad in 7th grade because this girl broke up with me that there's like other girls, so like don't be sad.
Right.
And that was about the extent of my emotional relationship with my father.
Well, I think that generation probably received even less from their parents.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to do a little bit better, and now it's on us to give a little bit more.
Yes.
And be a little bit more emotionally aware of how could I be an emotionally aware parent that I wish mine were more like, right? Yeah.
His way of telling me that he loved me was, no one else will love you except me. And I was like, thanks, Dad. I love you. I love you too. But I mean, he's a really nice guy. I mean, you know, he's got his flaws just like we all do, but you are right. So you have exceeded expectation, raised the bar, and went over it, right? And so I'm just like, I'm hugging and kissing and tell my kids I love you, and tell them that they're doing a great job and giving them words of affirmation. And that's a huge sea change from the way that I was raised. So, I mean, we're making progress.
Absolutely. I mean, at some point you take an assessment and you say, what are all of the different things that my children really need from me?
Yeah.
They certainly need affirmation and support, but they also need challenge. But I think they also need understanding. You know, a lot of times we joke about that old adage of parents saying, do as I say.
Sure.
And I think a lot of kids nowadays, especially younger generations, they're eager to do what you say, but they want to understand why.
Right.
Yes, it takes some intentionality to explain. But if you have that conversation where you say, listen, there's something about Fortnite that bothers me. It bothers me that there's this other person on the end that has an issue with me being there. Do you see how that makes me uncomfortable? Do you see why this makes me nervous as your parent, as the person that's supposed to protect and take care of you?
Yeah.
And now your son is part of this conversation with you. And I think that's really healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. Most of our listeners probably know you from your time at Life Church and now Christ Point Church, where you and Elizabeth serve as executive pastors. Will you tell us about Christ Point and what makes it such a special place to worship?
It's great. I love our local church. Christ Point is special to me because I think it's very real. And it's a place where when you go in, you don't have to pretend to be something or someone.
Sure.
You are very welcome. I think when you walk in, the first weekend I walked in, I think I was told welcome home by like 50 people. And it was almost overwhelming, but then I realized they mean it, that they really mean, we hope this is a place that when you walk through the doors, that you feel like you could stay, that you feel like you can experience the presence of God, that your family can grow up here. And that's just a wonderful thing. It's a real place where we're very concerned with how your family is growing up and maybe a little less concerned with whether everything is slickly polished and produced as what I am geared naturally to do, right? But I love that. One of my good friends, his name is Aaron Rowe, and he is an incredible businessman. And in his time off, he has to save space for this, but he leads a ministry through the church called Practical Love, where they quite literally feed people that are so food insecure that they don't know where the next meal is going to come from. And they're living in places within drivable distance of where we are right now that they're not sure, number one, where the next meal is coming from, but also how to stay out of the elements. They're living under pieces of tin, and it's here in our backyard.
Jeez.
And I had no idea that this is the reality of how a lot of people are struggling and trying to make it through life here in the Upper Cumberland. And so we're out there monthly feeding people, bringing needed supplies. And you know what I love about it? I've served in a lot of different places, but what I truly love and special about this group is it's not about whether they're going to come to church with us on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Do we invite? Absolutely, they're welcome. But we first look, is there a church close to them that they could walk to? And we try to get them there. We go and meet the pastors in their area and try to get them there. Our goal is not to try to do something that's going to help us. Our whole goal is to go in and see, how can we serve you? How can we provide something that's going to be helpful for you? And what is that? Is it food? Is it clothing? Is it medical items? Is it prayer? Like, is it all of those things at once? We'll spend as long as you want and we'll work with you. But that's one of the things I absolutely love about it. That's the hope of the church. And certainly that is our church trying to love first.
Yeah. So where's the church located?
We're in Sparta. So we're right on the square in Sparta.
Okay.
If you're familiar with Coffee Collective and stuff like that. Yeah, we're right there on the square.
Nice. And how big is the congregation?
We have 3 services on Sunday right now.
Okay.
It's a smaller room, so we do multiple services to accommodate, but I think we're probably about 450 somewhere in there on a Sunday across all 3. But certainly growing, and lots of great things are happening.
That's great. And so is this your first time being like a pastor?
I have been in ministry for about 15 years.
Nice.
I was in ministry at Life Church for quite a few of those and served in different pastoral roles with them and love my friends and family there. This is my first time serving as an executive pastor, but it's been wonderful. This is our 2nd year at Christ Point, so it's been really great.
Now, how long has the church been around for?
They've been around for a little over 10 years.
Okay.
Quite literally, I think they started with, I think somebody told me it was like maybe 10 or less people, and just a hope and a prayer that they could make a difference. And it's
Absolutely.
just grown over time. Yeah.
You know, when you were talking about having people living under like a piece of tin, we had Cindy Putman on, and she said something that stuck out to me, and I'll probably never forget it. She said, "We think we live in an affluent society and that everybody has the same kind of lifestyles that you see, you know, over there, right? However, if you just drive 5 miles from here,
yes,
you will see people that are living in the conditions that you're describing. And it's just it's crazy."
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned her. Like, it is quite literally, her church is one of the churches that has partnered with our
That's
Practical
great.
Love team to do a local missions outreach. So love them, love that community at Church on the Hill. But we are all just trying to find ways to serve. And I love that where I'm at now, our primary goal, like I said, it's to introduce people to the hope of Jesus, yes, but it's to serve them as well as we can. And you're right, there is suffering, bits of suffering happening right outside our back doors. And it's easy to go through life with blinders on and ignore it. But we have taken it up as a mission of ours to be aware and then find out, what do we have and what can we do? Like, when these floods happened here in East Tennessee, we did what a lot of people did. We got trailers together. We partnered with local businesses and people to get as many supplies out there as we could. Everybody did that. And then we hit that moment, like within a week, where they said, please stop sending supplies. We have enough. And we said, but there's still problems. Like, what can we do? And we drove down, and there were people that were homeless everywhere, displaced from the floods. And I love our team. Somebody had this crazy idea. They said, what if we buy RVs? What if we buy RVs and we drive the RVs and we donate them? And so that's what we did. We started buying RVs, and people started donating RVs. We had over 20 RVs that we brought down to East Tennessee. And so over 20 families that were displaced, homeless. Some of them were like young kids. Some of them were caregivers of elderly. And we were able to say, yes, you have no home. Today you have somewhere that is yours. No strings attached. We don't own it. You own it now. And this is yours. You can lay your head down in your home tonight.
Did people just fall out?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. That's life-changing.
Yeah. And then there were whole organizations that popped up to help service and meet that need. And the waiting list is just massive. So I love, like, when we get our heads together and just say, how can we help? What can we do right now with what we have? Let's just use our brains and let's pray and let's see what we can do when we all strive towards it together.
Today's climate, it just seems like everybody is searching for something. They're searching for security. They're searching for meaning. They're searching for peace. And I feel like we're really like pushing church and religion and organized religion. But I feel like we're missing like a piece of spirituality. Like, it's just like the aura of spirituality can't quite break through. And I'm just wondering if you feel that way at all. Like, if you ever feel like maybe more of the things that you're describing, just going out as an organization and partnering with other churches and helping people in times of need and, doing the things that Jesus did in the Bible, like, do you ever feel like maybe we just need to like reset and start focusing on that more than the this is my words, not yours, so I'm not going to put these words in your mouth, but like the business of organized religion?
Yeah. Okay. So I love to answer this question. I honestly spoke about it some this weekend. I think when we look at the workings of Jesus, we see someone who, number one, said, I'm about my Father's business. But what was that business? That business was going out and finding the hurting and the lost and the broken. And so, yeah, I think, what is the church? Where does it need to grow and where does it need to shift? I think we're seeing the younger generations are telling us now what they hope that the church can become. And that is a house of hope again, a place where real spiritual needs are being met. Young kids are not interested in joining a Christian country club because mom and dad did.
Right.
It's
very well put.
If this is how you've gotten them into church, it will not be how you keep them.
Right.
I believe that, when Jesus said, it's better for you that I go for the one that I send, talking about the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit's job was to empower me and convict me to do the things of Christ now. That is what people want. That's what people are searching for. I'm searching for purpose. I'm searching for meaning. I'm searching for value. Scriptures say, the world will give you peace, but I give you my peace, peace unlike the world gives you. I give you my perfect peace. So when we zoom out and we look at this from a human perspective, all of us are looking for a version of peace, a version of fulfillment, a version of happiness. And look, I see in Christ, he finds fulfillment. He shows us that there is meaning and purpose and fulfillment. When we look at the world, we love first, we serve others, and we do it all on behalf of our Heavenly Father. So that's why I say, I love a good production. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. It is like etched in my bones. I love
Right.
great production. Yeah. I love all the stuff. But at some point, I also have to say, but I don't need all of that stuff. And sometimes all the stuff can be a hindrance towards somebody receiving the true message. So we always have to take a moment and say, all right, are we distracting? Are we moving forward? And not be afraid to say it's time to reassess what we need to do tomorrow.
Yeah. Because I feel like the messages that, like the conversation that you and I are having right now, is extremely powerful. And if we, and I don't know if this is what you meant by production, but if we put like a full band behind you, your message would get lost, and it's the sermons, it's the conversations. Whenever I talk to somebody that's a pastor or that is very like a very religious person and that has a lot of knowledge about the Bible and their faith, like it always is one of my favorite conversations. Number one, it gives me confidence about the world because I know truly that people are trying to help other people. I don't know, like it seems like nowadays there's these huge, you probably don't watch The Righteous Gemstones, but it's...
I've heard plenty.
Yeah, it's a parody of a well-known popular religious family here in the United States. So the goal is to, through acts of service and truly helping build a better community, hands-on building a better community, is a way to fundamentally change the trajectory of the church and organized religion. Second episode we ever did was with Justin Grant. This was in 2021, almost 5 years ago. The episode was, how do we get more people back to church? How do we get the younger generations engaged in church? So 5 years later, I think that we are now on the precipice of being able to crack that code, which I think is extremely important because without religion and without having a place to practice, we lose the moral and ethical fundamentals of our society.
Sure. Start with asking that question and trying to understand the motivation behind the question. How do we get more people to come back to church? Well, what's the motivation behind it? Is it so that the more people that come, the more ability I have to do what I actually want to do? That is a motivation. A better one is to say, because when they come, they are going to walk into community that they desperately need, that desperately needs them. Scripture says that we find forgiveness and hope and joy and all of those things. They only come inside of community. So yeah, can you do church online? Absolutely. Can you be spiritual and not enter into organized church? Absolutely. But you are missing facets of faith not just for yourself, for others. You have something to give. They have something to give you. And so this is why we want to see people come into church community. It's not just so the church itself can get bigger and be a bigger business. No, the larger the church gets, the more complicated. And I love seeing churches planting other churches. I think that's incredibly healthy. But we're always looking at, all right, what's our motivation? And when our motivation shifts and it stops being about how do we help people find who they are in Jesus, we got to reevaluate and reassess.
Absolutely. You ready to talk about your second full-time job?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Multi-passionate.
Oh, I know. Yes,
Multi-passionate.
exactly. Not to go too far behind the curtain here, but you kind of have two full-time jobs. You're volunteering as the executive pastor at Christ Point, and you're the creative director at Fulfilled. So, what is Fulfilled? How does it work? And why should we get it?
Yes. So it is a company that has been around for almost 2 years now, and we have about 20 employees. We're based here in Cookeville and in Nashville. Some incredible people behind the scenes making that happen. For every one of us that's here in Cookeville area, Matt Allen is our co-founder, and just an unbelievable service. We're in the HR space, but really what we're trying to do is reimagine how companies care for their teams and their people. So a lot of times what we see are transactional things in organizations, perks programs, rewards programs,
Sure.
gift cards, Taco Tuesday, whatever it is, But Fulfilled is different. Our goal is to try to help employees experience real personal fulfillment, which means it begins with choice. So what does this actually look like? It's a platform. We've got over 50 providers on it right now, and it is everything from, Netflix to Walmart Plus to Instacart Plus to Udemy to Audible, you name it. If you can think of a subscription service that you're interested in, or a box service or something like that, we are already on it. We're working on it. Everything is monthly. And what I absolutely love about it from an employer standpoint is you get to give the gift of choice back to your employees. I have been an employer where I've had the responsibility of trying to figure out benefits for employees. And there's nothing more difficult or frustrating than sitting in a room with a bunch of people saying, what do you think they'll like? What do you think they'll use? Do
you
think
normally get it wrong?
Yeah, you always, right. Well, here's the truth. You always get it wrong for somebody.
Correct.
Right? You may get it wrong. You pray and you hope that you get it right for more than you get it wrong for. And Fulfilled is sort of, it's a reimagining because it says, hey, what if you invested in your people before they ever did anything good for you? Before they worked that hard week, what if you said, today, before your week starts, I'm investing in you. I'm giving you points to go shop in this platform, and I'm not going to tell you how to spend it. I'm not going to tell you how to use it. It's totally up to you. And if you're the kind of person that says, I don't really care about that, I don't want to use it, you can bring it home and let your family use it. Your kids can use it. If you're older, you can say, what about my grandkid that's in college? They can use it. All of these accounts, all these streaming services are now kicking people off if they are not in the same household, right?
Right.
It's the perfect time to use a service like this. And we're seeing incredible jumps in retention and engagement. We were recently in a company that was spending multiple millions of dollars on a healthcare program. It was really a telehealth program. We have telehealth on our app as well. They were spending millions of dollars on this a month. And we got in on the back end. They said, everybody that uses this loves it. Everybody that uses loves it. And we said, can we dig into that? Would you mind if we dig into that? Sure, absolutely. When we dug in, this is one of the largest QSRs in North America. We found out
QSR stand for?
Quick service restaurant. So like fast food.
Yeah.
So when we dug into the numbers, we found out that number that they were using was actually only 3% of their employees using this platform. Of the 3%, 1% was giving them feedback. So when they said everybody that uses it loves it, they're spending millions of dollars on something 1% of people were communicating back to them about. And we are now in places where we're seeing 80% engagement in a matter of 2 weeks.
Think about how public media has shaped you. Maybe it was Sesame Street that first sparked your love of learning. Maybe it was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that taught you how to be a better friend. Or maybe it was watching local programming that captured the community's stories all these years. Today, all of this is at risk. 40% of WCTE's budget comes from federal funding. And without this support, WCTE is at risk. Support for all of public media across this country costs the taxpayers $1.60 per year. This is only 0.01% of the federal budget. Eliminating access to public media will ensure that some get left behind, especially those in rural communities like ours. Without your voice, essential programming and services could be lost. Take a moment today and visit protectmypublicmedia.org.
And it's because you guys offer, I'm just going to speculate here, but it's because you guys offer a suite of services that people use in their daily lives.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like when you say Netflix and Spotify, you might as well say bread and water.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't survive. The majority of people can't survive in 2025 without those two things.
When are they going to be reclassified as a human right? You know?
Exactly, right? And so I think it's a phenomenal model in the sense that it's like, okay, you want your employers to utilize these services like telehealth because they're going to be healthier as it is, right? And they're going to be more productive. They're going to miss less work. I'm just speaking strictly as a business owner. And to engage them, you offer all of the other benefits that they can gain access to. So whether it's them or it's a family member, or if you're, older generation and you have grandchildren, like you've sort of figured out all the things that people need and people want.
And it's all based on monthly subscriptions. So if you desire for them to have access to telehealth, they've got it. Now, whether they use it every month is up to them and it's their choice. But because it's monthly, if they have an emergent need that comes up in their life, they can quickly switch things around and get it for the next month. If they already have Netflix, if they already have, Hulu or HBO Max, you can literally on our app, our platform, change your payment from your existing account to your fulfilled account. So if you are worried about losing your Netflix history or losing your Audible history or whatever, you just change the payment. And so now quite literally, your employer has access to all of the data and analytics, but your people are also getting cash back. So it's better than an extra $100 in their paycheck. Sure. It's better than that.
What are the tiers? Like, is there a specific tier, like, $35 a month?
Oh yeah, we have tiers that start at $35 and it goes all the way as high as you want to go. And there's customizable options all the way in between. We're always working. And like I said, we have offices here in Cookeville and in Nashville. So we love getting our local businesses. We've been adding local businesses here in Cookeville every week. So it's really exciting to partner with people that we already know and that we love.
And so you have an API. So like, for example, I have self-service payroll. So I use Paycom. And, the employees that we have, they all go in and enter their information themselves. We don't have a lot of interaction with them in payroll and the clerical side of HR. Does it just kind of talk to Paycom?
Yes, absolutely. So we partner with another company that uses API to integrate with over 250 payroll providers, which means it is literally clicks to onboard your entire company. And the beautiful thing about that, from my experience so far, HR people are overworked and the last thing they want is another platform and another thing that they've got to remember a password and log into. Quite literally, when you sync up with the APIs, can you log in to our admin portal and get access to the data anytime you want, or I will send it to you. But also, when you are connected through our API, the moment you term an employee or you let them go or they leave or whatever, immediately it communicates back to our system and we can go ahead and terminate the account. Or the same thing with hiring. You hire somebody, with every 15 days, we want to let new employees come on. The moment they're hired, the countdown starts. You don't even have to do anything. It'll automatically do it for you.
So your target market is Gen Z and millennials.
Well, I certainly think that Gen Z and millennials will immediately have buy-in and understand it. But I think what's great about this product is it's not so much of an industry solution. It's a people solution. Who doesn't use products? Who doesn't appreciate convenience and wellness? We have an incredible story of this single mother. She could never get to her son's basketball games on time. Her son played basketball, and as soon as she got off work, she would go to the grocery store, get food, start dinner, have it ready, and then she would make it for the last half of the basketball game. And she said to us when we first met with them, I just wish I could make it to a whole game. I've never made it to a whole game. Mm-hmm. And I know this sounds crazy, but she got on Fulfilled. She immediately used Instacart and she had her groceries delivered. She watched the whole basketball game and she just talked about how that convenience changed her life and how she would never have considered paying for the convenience herself, but that her employer footing the bill for it. totally made her appreciate her employer differently, changed her outlook on her week, and helped grow her relationship with her son.
Yeah. I mean, that's intrinsic value that you can't, as an employer, you just can't replicate.
Absolutely.
Wild. Good job, y'all. Matt Allen. Okay. I like that. I like that. Good for him. He's been wanting to meet with me. So I think at this point, I'm like, okay, I understand the entire concept without having to meet with him. So, thank you for that, by the way.
Well, and you talk about somebody that's involved in multiple things.
Yeah.
Matt Allen is involved in many things. Fulfilled is his primary right now, and he's absolutely crushing it. And I am honestly just very excited to be a part of his team. He's a great man of God.
As a country, state, and community, we're asking hard questions right now. It's a new day, but there's always a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done in communities of faith specifically. When you look around and you think about the work that needs to be done, what do you want next for Christ Point and churches across the country?
That's a great question, especially when you pose it as for churches everywhere. I think we have to acknowledge that there is public perception based on a lot of the failures that you see in the news to say, all right, we need to acknowledge these things and say, who are we? Who are we going to be? Are we going to be salt and light? Are we going to be people that restore hope in our communities? Are we going to be people that they say they're known by their love? They're known for crazy, audacious love. Is that going to be us? And that's what churches have got. I think if you ask pastors here in the Upper Cumberland, that's what they would say is their heart and their mission. That's where we've got to head. That's where we've got to go. It's less about, big buildings and big shows, even though that is a method for sure. I think the goal has got to be communities of strong, deep faith, pockets of strong, deep faith that are moving the wheels of community all over. And that's how the early church worked. I think that's where we've got to get again. I think our next generations now that are entering into the church, they want real. How can you meet me where I am today? Yeah. How can you talk to me about my life and where I am today? And how do I have a real sense of hope or purpose or relationship with the God of the universe? Is that possible?
Yeah.
And what does that look like? So I think that's where we've got to go.
Is this a perspective from Alex Lisic, or is this a perspective from the church community as a whole?
Oh goodness, I would never speak for the church community as a whole. I'll just speak for myself.
Sure.
And say, this is my hope. This is my dream, right? My hope is that this is what would be said. And 10 years from now, this is what will be said of the local church, that we are the hope of the world. We're the light of the world, that we are the place that you can go to, you can turn to when light seems dark, right? When it seems like you've hit the rock bottom, that you go to that local community church, right? That's what I hope.
Well, it sounds, I don't want to minimize it by any means, but it sounds a lot like the mission of a community bank. You can't build a great community without very, very prosperous and plugged in community banks. And they take chances on people that do wild things that become wildly successful that most banks that are, corporate, they wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? And again, a bank and a church are two completely different things.
No, I get you. People are always worth the risk.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that somebody took a risk on me when I was young, that there were people that said, let's chance it, right? Like, he's young and unproven and untested, and let's chance it. And so I'm always going to be in that space saying, let's fight for the risk and let's work with it.
Yeah. So I got to level with you though. Okay. So I met Tom Savage for the first time. He runs the NAACP here in town, and we were off in the corner talking, and he said something that I think was very interesting. He said, okay, so your generation, talking about I'm a millennial, your generation has no problems with diversity. They grew up with all kinds of people of different colors and orientations, so on and so forth. And he said, I think that the boomers are ruining this country. I said, no, they're not ruining the country. They just have a different perspective on life. They grew up in a different generation. And he himself is a boomer. I don't know if you ever met Tom before. Yes. So Jessica and I, Jessica grew up in the Catholic Church, and her dad was, Knights of Columbus, the whole 9 yards. As soon as she turned 18 and her parents stopped making her go to church, she was like, okay, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen someone so risk averse from wanting to start going to church. I think I don't want to speak for her, but I have this like strange feeling that it's like she's one of those types of people when it comes to church. It's like you're either all the way in or you're all the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And so for her to make that commitment to be all the way in, she has to feel really comfortable in that environment. And we've been to like a handful of churches. They've all been cool, interesting. It's just, we can't, we don't really care about like who's gay and who's a lesbian and who's trans. Like that doesn't really matter to us. If you categorize us from a political standpoint, we're fiscally conservative and we're socially liberal. Like, please don't waste our money. But at the same time, like, if you're not hurting anybody, just do your thing and be happy. There's plenty of things in life that make you unhappy. Being judged for who you are is the last thing that I feel like is necessary. The younger generation, to scale, typically thinks in that same capacity. So how does the church community as a whole, navigate this new understanding?
I think when it comes to faith communities, it's sort of like going home for Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like you're going to have some great conversation. Somebody's going to say something wild. There's going to be some arguments probably. Like we're always not going to all get along with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we all love each other and say, but we're family. And so I think faith communities are so divided right now based on the things that they are against that ultimately I want to tell you what I'm for, right? And I think certainly what's resonating with younger people has nothing to do with what the church is not for. I think what's resonating is when they say there is a place that you can come and find purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? The same Holy Spirit that convicted me of the things that I needed to change in my life, I trust that He'll do it in yours as well, right? I don't need to be the one to tell you. I need to be the one to introduce you to the source of life.
Sure.
Right now, a lot of our generation and younger, we were brought up with very religious upbringings where you sort of went to church by rule.
Right.
Right. And that's why I said country club, right? Because it was sort of a membership you ascribe to, and you're talking about it with your family now. Like, how do we become members of this club?
No, dude, I know. It's so wild.
We don't speak the language. We don't.
Like, I don't know if I walk into a church and like someone's rolling around on the floor, like, I mean, no offense or anything, but I'm like, I didn't, that's not something that I necessarily wanted to do.
What if you walked into those places and said, I'm going to have my own experience and I'm not going to be incredibly concerned with somebody else's? It's what I do
Great point.
Like when I look at it and somebody's having what looks like a spiritual breakthrough, whether I understand it or not, I look at it and say, what experience am I having? My job here is to connect, and that's what I'm going to do today. It's no different than sitting down at the table at Thanksgiving and saying, I'm going to have a great meal and I'm going to enjoy a good game on TV, right? Because the Bears are always going to lose, so it's going to be good. But I think when it comes to faith, this is what we've got to do as well. And I try to look at every one of these things and experiences and say, does it stack up with Scripture? If it does, even when I don't understand, even when it makes me feel a certain way. Well, the Bible says your heart will deceive you. So my feelings are not always fact, right? If you're a good husband, good spouse, sometimes the things you feel are not based in reality.
Sure.
And so I just try to say, all right, feelings aside, is God doing a work? God is doing a work and it's making them a better person and it's not hurting me. I'm for you. I'm for you. And I pray and hope you get everything out of this that you need to get out of it. And now when it comes to churches, there are lots of different flavors and styles of churches. I think it's dangerous to say, I'm looking for the right kind of ice cream, right? Because if that's what you enter into a place for, when the flavor changes, you will leave. I think the most healthy thing to do is say, let's find a place, let's dig in. As long as it's good, right? Let's dig in. Let's make family. Let's make friends. When you get to know people and you understand people and you understand where they came from and their experiences today, then you look at these experiences differently. If I'm just a casual observer walking in, everything's weird because I feel like a guest in somebody else's home. So my only encouragement is if you really want it, just make a commitment and go somewhere for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Go one place and then say, we're going to make a commitment, whatever it looks like. We're just going to dig in and see who these people are and let them get to know us a little bit. Let them get to know our kids a little bit and then see how it feels.
It would be nice to walk into a church and somebody says, welcome home.
I'd rather be on the side of too friendly, too welcoming than on the other end of that. And you hear that, unfortunately, sometimes, like, I came into this new place and nobody said hello to me. And, we all get involved in our own world, but it's important to say, I'm glad you're here today. I'm glad you're here. And when you're on the other end of that and somebody says it, it's like, okay, I don't need it. But when it happens, I feel welcomed. And my feeling welcomed allows my walls to go down for a moment so that I can actually receive what I came to receive today.
Yeah. I think it's paramount to the generations that have just been completely turned off by organized religion. I mean, it's not just going to be hard. It's going to be one of the most difficult things that we've ever done to bring young people back to organized religion. And you cannot do it without out-of-the-box thinking and a sense of intentionality, just to come full circle, what you're doing in Sparta is fantastic. And I say that with all the honesty and truth in my heart. Like, I am so glad that you are doing this because you want to build a sense of community and you want to help people, not just the people in your congregation, but the people just generally in our area.
Absolutely. And there are so many good pastors and people that are serving churches all over the Upper Cumberland that I've gotten the experience of getting to work with over the last 15 years. And so we are in a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful part of the world where there's so many good things that are happening. So it's great to be a part of that.
Yeah, let's talk about your third, fourth, fifth, sixth full-time job. There's nothing I love more than telling a secret on air that wasn't supposed to be talked about. Luckily, I think we'll be able to keep this one in. You're recording the first season of a podcast that will come out later this year. What can you tell us about it, and when will we be able to listen to it?
Yeah, so this is fun. I love that we're getting to talk about it. Elizabeth and I are right now recording a podcast together called The Good News Co. Stands for the Good News Community. And, we said we want to create a place digitally that people can go, and it's sort of a place to take a deep breath in. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about family and faith and hope and joy and all of those things. And we'll have people come and contribute. Like we said, it's a community, so there'll be a lot of people contributing to it. But that's really what we wanted to do is, share some experiences and build a community together online that is going to begin to focus on some of these things and from the perspective that we've had over the last 20 years.
I think we're all going to end up moving to Sparta. My kids dance in Sparta. All right. I just had one of my good friends, Dr. Akehenme, who was my African-American studies professor. Her husband's starting a long-term care company. They're moving to Sparta. You've got a church that, I'm pretty sure after Jessica listens to this episode, I'm not going to tell her about it, but after she listens to this episode, she's probably going to be like, we should go there. Bro.
There's lots
locked
of great.
And loaded.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, that's the thing where Elizabeth and I live here in Cookeville, and we make that trip up there, and it's wonderful. Yeah, it's wonderful. I could say the same thing for Baxter or Livingston. Sure. We've got great smaller communities that are all over, and Cookeville is the perfect hub for all of those things.
Absolutely. So we always like to end the show on a high note. Who is someone that makes you better when you're together?
Okay, so I have to start by saying, obviously, Elizabeth makes me better. She's my partner for life. We've been together for over 20 years. There's nobody that knows me like her. But I wanted to add this to it. My kids make me better. My brothers make me better. My family makes me better. My coworkers make me better. My friends make me better. And here's what I realized when I thought about that question is our community is a choice. Who we surround ourselves with is a choice. It's a decision that you make. And so, a few years back, Elizabeth and I said, we really want to be intentional with our community as well. And so we're going to give space and give time and give devotion to people that are truly bringing life and joy back into our family. And if you're not, maybe it's something that I've decided I'm putting in, right? But a lot of those relationships, maybe we have a little less time, but we're carving out space for intentional community. And the good news about that is when you do it like that, it's like, yeah, Elizabeth makes me better, but who doesn't that's in my circle? Who doesn't make me better, right? Like we have that close relationship enough that, you know, if there's something I need to work on, they let me know. Believe me, I've got the text, right? Like they let me know. But if there's great moments to celebrate, we celebrate together. If there's things we need to get together and work on, we do that too. So community is certainly a choice.
This isn't just about television or radio. It's about preserving the heartbeat of our community. WCTE PBS needs your support now more than ever. Join us and speak out to protect this important community asset. Visit protectmypublicmedia.org today. WCTE PBS isn't just another channel. It's a lifeline for everyone, no matter where they live or what they can afford. Your advocacy can ensure that this indispensable service continues to thrive.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Better Together with Costa Yepafonsev. If you've enjoyed listening and you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Leave us a review, or better yet, share this episode with a friend. Today's episode was written and produced by Morgan Franklin. Post-production, mixing, and editing by Mike Franklin. Want to know more about Costa? Visit us at CostaYepafonsev.com. We're better together. We'd like to remind our listeners that the views and opinions expressed during this episode are those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily represent or reflect the official policy or position of this show, its producers, or any related entities or advertisers. While our discussions may touch on various topics of interest, please note that the content is intended to inspire thought-provoking dialogue and should not be used for a substitute for professional advice. Specifically, nothing heard on this podcast should be construed as financial, legal, medical, or any other kind of professional advice. We encourage our listeners to consult with a professional in these areas for guidance tailored to their specific circumstances.